But since 67 Naxalbari, the Naxalites have pursued this through the agency of, or what their interpretation of it was, that you have to undertake individual annihilation. This became the operative, the business end of the doctrine, which I think is a travesty as far as Mao Zedong himself is concerned, or his thoughts are concerned, because the Chinese Revolution was not built on the basis of individual annihilation. It was built on the basis of a mass mobilization of peasantry, which was of course led by the People's Liberation Army and the Communist Party. It was armed, all that is there, but the mass of the peasantry was with with Mao Zedong or the CPC. In the case of the Naxalites, that has never taken place. In all their avatars, 40 of them were there at one point of time, then they subsided, then many new avatars have come up. They have been involved in abstruse ideological debates within themselves. They have all splintered, set up their own small pockets of influence, claiming to work again for the same thing, but never actually being able to mobilize the mass of the peasantry with them. In that sense, the building of this illusion, the dream that they propagate of overthrowing the system, an exploitative system, which finds some resonance with people who are crushed under exploitation, is actually misleading the people, because it's not really going to happen. It has not happened for 40 years, and it is not going to happen the way they are going about it, which is of merely conducting a kind of a guerrilla insurgency without having the mass support that is there. 2004 it was when they merged, not 2003, the PWG and MCC. After that, there has been a spike in the violence. The reason why they are operating in this so-called CRZ is not because they were forced into that place by state repression. It is because that's the only suitable place in which this model will work. You can hide in the forest and you can carry out these guerrilla tactical actions and then retreat back into the forest. You don't have to be concerned about the people, you don't have to be concerned about setting up new systems of relations, etc., etc., and you can go on functioning like that. That's the way it is, and that's why it's a failure.
In some sense, some of the Maoist documents also indicate that they necessarily feel that this is one of the voids in their so-called praxis. I suppose there was also
what is the void?
Engaging in mass movements or engaging.
They have talked. Their documents, if you look at them right from the beginning, as far as talking is concerned, there's no let up in that. They continuously say not only the question of mass mobilization, but also the question of building up bases in urban areas. These are two things on which they have continuous documents, subcommittees, conferences, discussions, and so on. But they have not been able to do that. And one stream which split away from, which sort of congealed out of the various splinters and was the CPI-ML Liberation, Vinod Mishra. They took up the issue of mass mobilization and mass participation in a more serious way. Through the 80s, they built it up. But the whole house of cards collapsed in the face of, what shall one say, the social reality of Indian countryside, the caste system. They were unable to tackle it, and after Mandal, the Naxalite movement in Bihar was fragmented on caste lines, and there was a bloody war that was unleashed in Bihar between various groups which were siding with various caste formations. So that was the only time when any serious Naxalite or ultra-left group attempted mass mobilization. They had gone to the extent of winning one MP from Ara and several MLAs. Then it's gone down again because of being unable to tackle that. The rest of them, conveniently, are sticking on to the line of individual annihilation. They are underground, they are in the forest, they don't have to worry about organizing people and handling mass of the people, without which a revolution can't take place.
Recently, one of their high-ranking members, Kobat Gandhi, was arrested. He was apparently the head of their subcommittee on mass organizations, precisely what you have been elaborating about now. There has been a certain sense of surreal reportage on this on the arrest of Kobat Gandhi, primarily because he comes from an affluent background, and there are many media discussions and discourses have actually commented that there is some kind of sympathy for the Maoists from sections of the middle class, and also some of the D classes of in urban India. Has there been a dent made by the Maoists in urban India at all? At least
No, I would say, Shri, that in its first avatar in the 60s, late 60s and early 70s, there was a much bigger impact on the middle class. Several people from elite colleges like Stephens and Presidency and Xavier's left their college and joined up with the Naxalites and took to the jungles and so on and so forth. All of them, of course, have now left all that and are happily settled within the system. But that was a time when there was definitely an impact. Sorry. But the issue actually is, what is the resonance between the Naxalite ideology or appeal and the middle class? What is it exactly that resonates there? There is a resonance which might be reflected in Kobat Gandhi, but he actually belongs to that generation, the first generation. But even today, you will find various idealistic young people who have romantic notion, whose heart cries out against the injustice that they see in their own small world, and they think that some kind of drastic measures should be taken to wipe it out. And then the appeal of the Naxalite comes in there because there is a romanticized image of the Naxalite or the Maoist or the ultra left, that they have taken up arms and they are going to smash the whole thing. That's the shortcut. But revolutions can't be built on the basis of these romantic illusions. You see, you have to get the people thinking and fighting for the revolution. That's what a revolution is. A revolution is not some Amitabh Bachchan or somebody going and shooting down some guys and thinking that the system will change by that. As Hamlet says at one point, that I could be bounded in a nutshell and count myself a king of infinite space. I mean, you can go on thinking that you are the king of infinite space, but no way is it going to work, as the history of the Maoists has shown in India. The only place in the world where an avowed Maoist party is functioning in any viable manner is our neighbor Nepal. And you look at them, they have their tactics. You may agree or disagree with them. They will go into the parliament, they will come out of the parliament, they will go into the government, they will quit the government, but they have the ability to mobilize. You may agree or disagree with their strategic aims or anything, but at least they have some mass base which is going along with them. That's why they are a viable force in Nepal politics. Not so with these guys. They are nowhere.
I think we have covered considerable ground.
Okay.
As an
Thanks.
overview on the Maoist challenge per se. We'll discuss more on this.
Sure.
Thank you so much.